They don't just look at you, they study you, like you're a puzzle made of glass and fire, like they can't decide whether to worship you or shatter you. You've felt it in rooms where the air shifts the moment you enter. Some people light up in your presence, as if seen for the first time. Others stiffen, their smiles too sharp, too brittle. The admiration feels like addiction. The hate feels like obsession. And the strangest part? You did nothing. At least, not consciously. You've wondered, more than once, what is it about me? You're not the loudest, not the most traditionally beautiful. You don't even try to attract attention. In fact, on most days, you crave invisibility. But you can't hide. You walk into a space and the dynamics recalibrate. It's subtle, but it's unmistakable. Eyes linger, voices change. People project love, envy, need, fantasy, and you receive it all, like a lightning rod catching emotional storms you didn't summon. It doesn't make sense in ordinary terms, but you've learned something. The responses you provoke aren't always about you, not in the way you think. Carl Jung once said, "The meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed. But sometimes, the reaction isn't gentle. It's volcanic. When your presence triggers someone, it's often because, whether through your light, your silence, your depth, or your authenticity, you've touched something dormant in them. Something raw. Something they've buried. Maybe it's your softness that enrages the hardened. Maybe it's your freedom that needles the caged. Maybe it's your clarity that blinds those who live in fog. What you carry, unconsciously, might be what someone else has disowned. That is the secret Jung hinted at again and again. The psyche doesn't just see others, it projects onto them. What we cannot face in ourselves, we see distorted in the faces of others. And if you happen to embody something another person has repressed, beauty, vulnerability, power, integrity, they will respond not to you, but to the echo of their unclaimed self vibrating through your existence. To them, you are not a person. You are a mirror, and not everyone wants to see their reflection. But it doesn't stop there. Projection isn't only the root of disdain or rivalry. It's also the seed of infatuation, obsession, even love. People fall into you not because they know you, but because you awaken something in them they cannot name. A hunger, a memory, a possibility. Your presence becomes mythic in their eyes, larger than life, frightening, magnetic. And when they can't grasp it, they try to possess it, control it, destroy it, or worship it. And you feel it all, the waves, the undercurrents. The pressure of being seen in a way that feels invasive, inaccurate, or impossible. You may begin to doubt your own sanity. Wonder if you're imagining it all. But you're not crazy. There's a reason your presence disturbs, delights, attracts, or unsettles. And the reason is not surface deep. It reaches down into the archetypes that run beneath the collective psyche. What you carry is not just your personality. It's the weight of symbols, the stirrings of the unseen. Your aura is not just energy. It's invitation and confrontation. And now the question becomes, why? Why does your aura carry this intensity? Why do people project their shadows and fantasies onto you? Why does your mere presence unearth what others have spent their lives hiding? To understand that, we must go deeper, into the realm where psychology becomes mythology, and where your aura becomes an archetypal mirror. What we call an aura is not merely a glow or a vibe. It's a psychic field, a living atmosphere made of emotion, memory, identity, and mystery. It is the invisible language your soul speaks before your mouth ever opens. To some, it feels like safety. To others, it feels like a challenge. But to all, it speaks. And in that speech, something ancient is stirred. Carl Jung didn't use the term aura in the mystical sense, but he understood the phenomenon intimately. He called it the field of projection, the place where the unconscious meets the outer world. Every person you meet is a carrier of something larger than themselves, what Jung called archetypes, the universal symbols and patterns buried in our collective unconscious. When your aura resonates with an archetype someone has not yet made peace with, their psyche reacts, not rationally, but mythologically. In that moment, you cease to be you. You become a symbol. It is not always fair. It is not always accurate, but it is powerful. Your softness might be interpreted as seduction by someone who carries the archetype of the temptress or the betrayed. Your silence may be read as judgment by those haunted by shame. Your intensity may provoke admiration or fear, depending on whether someone embraces or represses their own fire. We do not respond to people directly. We respond to what they represent. This is why your aura attracts intensity. It functions like a psychological Rorschach test. People don't see you. They see themselves reflected, distorted, or denied. In Jungian terms, this is projection, the act of casting one's inner content, often unconscious, onto another. When someone meets you and feels overwhelmed, it's not necessarily because of something you've done, but because of what you've awakened. They see in your presence a glimpse of the unlived life, and nothing haunts the human soul more than the life it refused to live. Think of the archetypes swirling in our culture and psyches: the lover, the sage, the rebel, the innocent, the mystic, the outcast. When your energy aligns with one of these, even unconsciously, you become a carrier of the archetypal force. You walk into a room, and without saying a word, you remind people of something they've forgotten or something they fear. This is what gives certain people the power to shift a room's atmosphere. It's not charisma in the superficial sense. It's deeper than charm. It's the gravitational pull of authenticity, of a soul unedited. And to those who've contorted themselves to fit social masks, that presence feels like a threat. It's the existential discomfort of being around someone who is not performing. Here's the paradox. The more you embody your true self, the more others will project their false selves onto you. Why? Because truth forces confrontation. Your aura becomes a light, beautiful to those seeking clarity, blinding to those hiding in shadow. And it goes further still. Jung suggested that each of us carries both the masculine and feminine within. The anima, feminine soul image in men, and the animus, masculine soul image in women. When you encounter someone whose aura embodies the traits of your anima or animus, the psyche lights up. It believes it has found the missing piece. That's when things get dangerous. Because now, the person is no longer a person. They're a container for the soul's yearning. The obsession begins. The envy sharpens. The love deepens into something sacred or unhinged. And all of this, it happens without a single word being spoken. So if you've ever felt like people fall into you too quickly, or turn on you with no clear reason, or romanticize you to the point of delusion, it's likely because they are not relating to you. They are relating to what your aura represents. To truly grasp the magnitude of this, we must explore what happens when your light touches someone's darkness, when your being calls their shadow to the surface, because that's when envy is born. And envy, unlike anger or fear, has teeth made for silence and wounds that take root in the psyche. There is a special kind of silence that follows you into the room. Not the reverent kind, not awe, but calculation. The way someone glances at you sideways. The way their compliment feels too polished, too thin. You sense it, but you can't prove it. It's not hostility. They smile too much for that. It's not dislike. They know how to hide that well. It's something colder, envy. The most dangerous people in your life are not the ones who openly hate you. They're the ones who resent you quietly because your presence makes them feel what they've spent years refusing to feel. That ache of insufficiency, that hunger to be seen, to be whole. And without meaning to, you bring it to the surface. Carl Jung warned us, everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. But envy doesn't seek understanding. Envy doesn't want to learn. It wants to erase the evidence that someone else holds what we believe we can't have. This is the secret alchemy of the shadow. The shadow, in Jungian psychology, is not just our darkness. It's everything we've rejected, hidden, or failed to develop within ourselves. It contains our rage, yes, our shame, our fears, but also our brilliance, our sensuality, our intuition. Everything the world taught us was too much or not enough. So what happens when someone sees you living freely in what they've disowned? They envy, not because you are wrong, but because you are proof. Your light becomes offensive to the person who spent a lifetime dimming theirs. Your creativity triggers someone who silenced their own. Your joy irritates the one who has made an identity out of suffering. You are not attacking them, but you are violating their illusion that they had to settle, that they had to break themselves into something acceptable. Envy is not admiration twisted. It is recognition denied. A soul seeing what it might have become had it made different choices. This is why envy hides. It's shameful. The envier cannot look at you without feeling their own inadequacy, and so they will try to reduce you. They'll downplay your talent, mock your depth, question your motives, disguise their resentment as sarcasm or casual disinterest. But make no mistake, it's not about you. It's about what your existence represents. You are the embodiment of something they once abandoned. And in a way, envy is a strange form of grief. Grief for the life not lived, for the version of themselves that your aura resurrects. This is why being deeply seen often comes with resistance. Some people don't want to be illuminated. They want to stay safe in their shadow. And if you shine too brightly, they may not throw stones, but they'll carry scissors behind their smiles. They'll look for ways to shrink you, to stain your light with rumors, questions, coldness. To be envied is not glamorous. It is exhausting. It's the loneliness of carrying what others call too much, the heaviness of becoming a screen for someone else's discontent. But here's the deeper truth. Their envy is not your burden to carry, nor is it your cue to shrink. Because envy, like obsession and love, reveals a powerful truth. You are touching places in others that they cannot yet touch in themselves. And that is a kind of sacred disruption. A wake-up call. A confrontation with the soul. And if envy is what happens when your light exposes someone's shadow, then obsession is what happens when your soul touches their missing self. That part of them so buried, so lost, that they seek to possess you just to feel it again. Obsession doesn't begin with desire. It begins with recognition. Not the kind where someone knows who you are, but the kind where someone's soul whispers, there it is, what I've been missing. And once seen, that emptiness roars. It no longer wants peace. It wants you, or what you represent. But here's the truth no one tells you. When someone becomes obsessed with you, it's not about your body, your beauty, your words, or your attention. It's not even about love. It's about the fragment of their own soul that they see glowing in you. The part they lost, the part they were told to suppress, the part they now believe they can only access through you. You become a portal. Carl Jung called this phenomenon the projection of the anima and animus, the internal soul images we carry of the opposite gender, or more accurately, of our inner polarity. For men, the anima is the archetype of the inner feminine, emotional depth, intuition, creativity, chaos, the mystery. For women, the animus is the inner masculine, logic, drive, order, focus, assertiveness. But these aren't just traits. They are soul symbols, and they live in the unconscious until they are consciously integrated. So what happens when someone has repressed their inner anima or animus? They go searching. They don't know they're doing it. It's not logical. It's mythic. They walk through the world half-souled, feeling an absence they can't articulate. Then, suddenly, they meet someone whose aura radiates exactly what they've buried. A softness they never allowed themselves, a strength they feared, a wildness, a wisdom, something both foreign and achingly familiar. They become obsessed, but it's not with you. It's with what you awaken. This is the psychic hunger for integration, a longing so primal it bypasses reason. You're not just a person to them now. You are the bridge to their missing self. They study you, crave you, fantasize not just about being with you, but being you, merging with you, dissolving the gap between what they are and what you seem to carry effortlessly. This is why obsession can feel terrifying for both parties. The obsessed feels possessed. The one being obsessed over feels invaded. Because energetically, it is a kind of possession. It's the unconscious mind trying to reclaim what it lost by clinging to an external symbol of it, you. And it never stays benign. What begins as reverence often turns to fixation. They want more of you. Your time, your energy, your essence. When they don't get it, the hunger twists into control, possessiveness, rage, or debilitating despair, because to lose you would mean losing access to that missing part of themselves. And for the fragmented psyche, that loss feels like annihilation. But here's the twist. Even if they did have you fully, physically, emotionally, spiritually, it still wouldn't satisfy the hunger. Because what they're truly looking for isn't outside of them, it's within. You were only ever a trigger, a reflection, a door. And that's the cruel irony of projection. The thing they're chasing in you is the thing they've disowned in themselves. Until they realize this, the obsession deepens. Not because they love you, but because they are still estranged from their own soul. To be the object of someone's obsession is to carry a projection too heavy for any human to hold. You may begin to feel like a prisoner of someone else's fantasy, like no matter what you say or do, they can't truly see you because they don't want to. They want the archetype, the dream, the myth. And if you break that illusion by showing your humanness, your mess, your boundaries, some will turn on you with a vengeance. The same intensity that once adored you will now seek to destroy you. Not because you harmed them, but because you revealed the truth. You are not their missing piece. You never were. Still, There are others, rarer souls, who will use the obsession as a gateway to something deeper. They will awaken. They will begin to integrate the qualities they once projected onto you. They will retrieve what they thought they had lost. And in that, obsession transforms. It alchemizes. It becomes recognition without possession. And that is the root of deep love. Because when someone no longer needs to consume you to access themselves, when they can stand beside you, whole and conscious, that is when love begins. Not obsession, not fantasy, but true union. There is a silence that falls when true love enters the room. Not the silence of tension, nor the silence of fear, but the stillness of recognition, as if something ancient has just been remembered. You meet their eyes, and it doesn't feel like discovery. It feels like returning, like you've been circling each other for lifetimes, waiting for the exact moment the veil would lift, and you would know. Not just them, but yourself. Because that's what deep love truly is, a recognition of the self in another. In Jungian terms, this is not projection, not the obsessive pursuit of the anima or animus in distorted form. This is what comes after integration, when you have reclaimed the lost parts of yourself and no longer seek salvation through another. When you see someone not as a mirror to your wound, but as a companion to your wholeness. And so the love you feel isn't frantic. It doesn't grasp. It doesn't hunger. It simply knows. You recognize in them a frequency that matches your own. Not a perfect reflection, but a harmonic resonance. Where their presence doesn't complete you, it amplifies you. Where your boundaries don't threaten the bond, they honor it. Where love becomes less about needing and more about witnessing. Because when someone truly loves you, they don't fall in love with your persona. They love the sacred, tender chaos of who you actually are. And this kind of love, deep, quiet, steady, is threatening to those who have only known love as drama, as conquest, as possession. This love doesn't burn fast and vanish. It roots, it deepens, it reveals, it asks you to stay, not because you're afraid of losing them, but because you want to build something sacred with them. Jung spoke of the individuation process, the journey of becoming whole within oneself. He believed that only when this process had begun could true, conscious love emerge. Because without self-awareness, what we call love is often just projection, falling in love with an image, an illusion, a fantasy painted by our unmet needs. But after individuation, something shifts. We stop looking for a rescuer. We stop trying to rescue. Instead, we meet another soul who has walked their own fire. Someone who has sat with their shadow, held their inner child, and earned their own light. Someone who doesn't need to be fixed and doesn't ask you to shatter for their comfort. This is where the soul truly relaxes, and the heart, finally, opens. But here's what most don't realize. Deep love is not only soft and tender, it's devastatingly intimate. Because to be fully seen by someone who is conscious is terrifying. They will see your doubts, your wounds, your quiet fears, and they will stay. Not because you are flawless, but because your truth is beautiful. And when two souls meet in this space, beyond ego, beyond story, there is no obsession, no envy, only reverence, only presence. In this space, the aura stops being a battlefield of projection. It becomes a sanctuary. But make no mistake, this kind of love is rare. Not because it's impossible, but because few have done the inner excavation it requires. It takes courage to meet someone and not lose yourself in them, to love without clinging, to be loved without shrinking. So when it finds you, or when you find each other, it won't feel like fantasy. It will feel like truth. And perhaps that is the final alchemy of the aura, not just to attract, but to reveal. Not just to provoke obsession or envy, but to awaken love that is real, ancient, and deeply earned. Still, even this kind of love does not erase the weight of being seen so fully. Even in love, the light you carry casts long shadows. And so the question remains, what do you do with that power? How do you carry the burden of magnetism without being consumed by it? There's a heaviness that comes with being a mirror, not the kind that breaks, but the kind that reflects so purely that people see too much of themselves in you, and either reach for you with trembling awe or recoil in denial. You didn't ask for this. You never tried to become someone's awakening, someone's fantasy, someone's reckoning, but you are. And that truth carries both a burden and a gift. You start to move through the world differently once you realize the gravity of your presence. You learn that your silence speaks louder than others' words, that your energy enters the room before your body does, that the way people react to you often says more about their unhealed selves than your own essence. It can feel like walking through an emotional hall of mirrors, where everyone's response is a projection, and your reality begins to blur. You ask yourself, am I too much? Am I making this up? Why does it always happen this way? You're not imagining it, and you're not crazy. What Jung pointed toward, though he never used these exact words, is that some people come into the world carrying a psychic intensity, a field that disrupts illusions, disturbs egos, awakens longings, and stirs archetypes long buried beneath the surface. You may be one of those people. And if you are, you will need to make peace with this truth. You are a symbol before you are a person. To the unconscious, that is. To the awakened, you are both. That's the subtle distinction. To those who are not yet self-aware, you will trigger. To those who are halfway there, you will enchant. But to those who are conscious, you will be met. And that meeting, rare, sacred, grounding, is what you must hold out for. But until then, there is a choice to make. You can shrink, dim your light, hide your depth, disguise your softness, mute your magnetism, so the world doesn't feel so chaotic, so confusing, so relentlessly reflective. Or you can rise, not arrogantly, not for applause, but in quiet defiance of a world that fears what it cannot understand. You protect your energy, not by closing, but by choosing. Choosing where to give your gaze, your time, your story. You stop absorbing projections, and instead, you begin to see them for what they are. You become fluent in the emotional languages of envy, obsession, adoration, and you stop mistaking them for love, because now you know. The way people see you has nothing to do with you, and everything to do with what you stir in them. And still, you don't turn bitter. You don't grow hard. You simply become a keeper of something rare. The ability to carry archetypal resonance without being possessed by it. That is your gift. That is your gravity. That is your aura. And when you finally meet someone whose own soul is just as awake, who sees you without illusion, you'll feel it. Not as a burning, but as a homecoming.